Well, the New South Wales and federal governments, as well as official charities, are being urged to direct some of its already committed funding for bushfire relief towards the provision of vouchers. The call comes from the New South Wales Business Chamber to ensure small businesses can get financial advice from their local accountant on the best way to recover. Joining me now live to discuss is the New South Wales Business Chamber Chief Executive Stephen Cartwright. Stephen, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon.
Good to be here.
Firstly, overall, take us through the impact of the bushfires on businesses.
So the bushfires have been going now since November last year, and it was mainly the North Coast that suffered in the early stages, and they're now trying to recover and rebuild. Then, of course, we had all of the South Coast fires. We've now got fires around the Canberra area, so it's been a very, very difficult summer. But what's really been difficult is the way in which the busy tourist period was really not available to most small businesses in all of the tourist towns and coastal villages and even some of the regional areas that are also being hit by drought. So it's been a perfect storm in some ways for small businesses, and they're facing a pretty bleak sort of 12 months as they wait for the next busy period to come next summer.
It's certainly been extremely devastating. How can we ensure their long-term survival now?
So we've got two strategies that we believe will really help. The first is every business is probably facing a different challenge. So if I'm a cafe in Batemans Bay, I may have a very different problem to a retail outlet in Cooma, because of course during the winter period the Cooma business is going to get business as a result of the snow season and so on and so forth. So what we're saying is there's about 26,000 businesses in New South Wales only that have been affected, most of them indirectly affected, not burnt to the ground, but because they've lost all of that summer trade. We need to be able to very quickly get a tailored financial recovery plan in place for each of those businesses, and each business will need a tailored plan that's different to the other business. So what we're suggesting the government could do is to provide a voucher that allows that business to go to their local accountant who understands the business, knows their background, knows what assets they hold, knows whether they can or can't afford to take out a loan, even the low interest loans that the governments are offering. A tailored plan that says this is how you can survive through until you get back on your feet. And we think that's a better solution than having government workers on a hotline who don't understand their business and have to go through the whole process of trying to get to the bottom of how to help them survive.
Have you consulted on the matter to try and get the vouchers to these local advisors?
So when I was in a meeting around business roundtable with the Prime Minister a couple of weeks ago, we certainly discussed this option, and it's something that we as the Business Chamber intend to continue to push, because all the feedback we're getting from all of the local chambers of commerce in every town, every village that has been affected, they're saying that's the best possible solution. Because remember, that $500 voucher that we're suggesting would stay in the town as well, because the accountant lives in the town too. So you're letting that money circulate through the economy rather than sending it somewhere else.
You've also launched a campaign to help communities. Can you take us through it?
Yeah, so that's the second part of our strategy. Yeah. And that is that we're looking at this period from probably kind of Easter to, say, the end of November, where traditionally a lot of these towns go very quiet. And of course, the businesses in those towns and the staff who work for them can kind of survive through that period because they had the really busy time during the last summer. Well, most of these towns didn't have that busy time, so it's going to be really difficult for them to survive through to the next tourist period next summer. So our suggestion is, what if these businesses, big businesses, corporates, government, utilities, meetings that they would otherwise hold in Sydney or hold in Newcastle, hold in Wollongong, how about if they pledged right now, while the goodwill is still there and it's front of mind, how about we pledge to take one of those meetings to one of these towns sometime between now and December of this year. So, for example, the New South Wales Business Chamber, we have a state council meeting. It's about 60 people altogether involved. Instead of doing it in North Sydney in May, we're going to take it to the South Coast, and we'll probably go to somewhere like Merimbula or Batemans Bay so that we can actually inject some money into the town that they wouldn't normally get. Now, the good news is we've got a website, backingthebush.com.au, and we've already got almost 100 big corporates that have said, yes, we will pledge to do that during the quieter period of the year. Westpac, NAB, Deloitte, KPMG, all of these businesses are committing to take their meeting that they would otherwise hold in the city and hold it in one of these regional areas. And that injects much needed cash into these economies during their quiet period so they can survive.
And how important is it for this money to reach these businesses now? I was down the South Coast myself this week. A lot of business owners I spoke to, they said what we need is money right now. I mean, how long do you predict that this slower season is going to last for?
Well, we know that with most of these towns, you get a little bit of visitors on the weekend during the sort of period from Easter through till Christmas, but really you don't get a lot of tourist traffic during that period. There's not a lot of school holidays, and even if there is, people tend not to go down to the South Coast as much. So our thinking is maybe that's the role the business community can play. We can actually give them business and give them trade activity that they would never normally enjoy if we can persuade people to do that. And I've got to say to you, the response from the business community has been fantastic. Everyone I've spoken to, every business I've called and had a discussion with, the CEO has said, absolutely, we're going to do that.
I want to move on and talk about the coronavirus and the impact as well. Of course, yesterday there was an unprecedented ban. Non-Australian residents flying through mainland China banned from entering the country as of yesterday. How much of an impact do you suspect that this will have on business?
Look, it's difficult to really know because we don't yet know the extent to which this virus is going to continue or peter out or be defeated as a result of the quarantine processes. But there's no doubt that if we restrict the capacity of people to travel here from China, it's going to impact very heavily on the tourist sector. It's going to impact very heavily on the education sector because university goes back next week and a lot of these international students come from the China region, and so that is going to have a big effect on two of our most important export industries. There
had been talk that this could potentially cause a recession. Do you think that sort of a view is extreme, or that's a real possibility?
Look, I think it's a little bit early to tell yet. I mean, I keep trying to give our members a little bit of perspective. More people so far have died from the common flu that we have every year than so far have been affected by this virus. So I praise the government for taking the initiative. Australia was really one of the first to really grapple with how are we going to protect the citizens from this issue. But I think it's too early to really make a full assessment yet of the economic impact.
I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. Stephen Cartwright, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.